Hey, good morning. My name is Freddy. Thank you for joining today. We will learn to use event programs in Works3. So this will be a series of videos to assist you when you work with Works3. Most of the time we are not always familiar with some of the useful tools in the Mitsubishi software suite. So there are many tools hidden that most of us have never used, since we just don't know that they exist. So let's have a look at them. Okay, so today I'm going to handle a bit of event programming. So it's not verbatim, so I'm just going to show you the means and the methods of how you can combine different ideas together to make it work for you in your specific environment. I've already started up a project, and let's have a look at it. Okay, so there's a new project available. So what you're going to do is, oopsie, sorry about that, lost my microphone. What you're going to do is to start an event program is to go down into your events part of the tree. So in there we're going to create an event program. I think my next video I will talk a little bit more about fixed scanning, which is also a very interesting subject to handle. And then the one after that will most probably be standby programming and non-executable types. Unregistered programs, I think, is quite self-explained. It's just a program text that you want to keep somewhere in on the side, and you don't want to make it work right now. Okay. Typically in development stages you'll probably leave some of your code in your unregistered program area, but today we're going to handle events. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start a new event program. I just started up a blank project. Obviously this is by default your program body, but now I'm just going to add an event, add new data, and it will give us a couple of options in here to select from. Again, specify what will be the name of your program, decide what type of program you would like to use in there, and then this will obviously fall in the events group. And quite important, I'll explain this a little bit for us during the process of today, on how to specify where you would like to create your new program. Okay. So for today, I'm just going to select the function block and ladder diagram. You can say ladder or whatever you prefer. So I'm going to specify the same as the data name. So if I call my program my event number 1, then my program name will be, my root program name will be then also called my event number 1. Okay, so once you create an event program, this is quite important to read. If you miss this message, you will not know where to begin with this. So a newly created program file will be registered to event program with the following settings. So it will be a bit type, and it states that the bit needs to go on for this program to run, or true for that matter. Then the default bit designated will be SM401. If anyone knows what SM401 is, put it in the comments, then I will give you some feedback on that. So let me know what is SM401 about. And then obviously to change the trigger type, we're going to look in program settings, CPU parameters. Okay. I'm going to say OK to that. So the parameters where we're going to have a look at will be under CPU parameters, to be able to change the event. That's the first thing that you're going to do, otherwise you're going to forget about this and you would not remember it if you're not familiar with event programming. So we're going to go to our CPU parameters and then go to your program settings. Oopsie. Go to your program settings and then select detailed settings, the first one under program settings. I just double click on it, or if you don't want to double click on that, I'm just going to go back there. You can just click on the browse button at the end of the line. Okay, so either way you can get to it. Okay, so yeah, click on the browse button. Then I will get an entry in my execution order called SM104. It's set to do not clear. I'm going to go through each and every one of these functions, and the bit is on. So when whichever bit switches on, then that will clearly be a instruction for the program to run the moment that bit switch on. So anyone that knows what SM104 is all about, let me know. So when we go into the settings, we will find a new set of parameters to play with. First, we're going to decide in what mode would we like the event program to run. So remember, you can combine this with many different things. It's the same as what you would use pointers. Some guys are used to program with pointers. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. You can apply exactly the same rules here by changing the format to pointers instead of an event specifically. So let's say, for instance, I want this specific program to run when something happens in either my program or on an input from my PLC or from the field. So when something happens in the field, at that moment the program will run. So that is independent from my scan time. So if I, for instance, say here, I want to know when X0 switches on, this program that I'm going to create here now under event programs will then run. Okay. Then you have an option here to select from do not clear the bit. So when X0 set a bit, it will stay set in the event. So the program will not run again and again and again. So you got a program, write some logic into your program to clear the bit. So when you feel happy about the fact that yes, I found the program run and I'm going to clear the bit now so that the program can run again next time. Or if you set clear, be very careful now. So if you got a random trigger happening on X0, that program will run permanently or constantly as and when it switches on the rising edge. Then yeah, it's gonna fire a bit out there and then make your program run again. So I prefer to use do not clear. I will set the bit to clear. Okay, and also the next thing is, if you want to use interruption occurrences or you want to use past time, I'm going to go through that a little bit later. But let's just handle this one for now. The rest of the settings is for the other options that we can get set there. This is for pastime parameters. And if you want to, just spend some time reading the text at the bottom here. It explains it extremely clear on how to configure your event. Okay, take note that my parameter has now changed. Bit on, do not clear, and X0. I'm going to apply that setting. Check if there's any errors. Program feels happy. And now I'm going to return back to my program. Now there's a couple of rules that you have to remember. It's common sense on the end of the day. And it's quite intuitive when you think about this. So remember, this program does not run until X0 switches on. And it will only run once when X0 switched on. It will not sit there and loop through the program all the time now. So think about a timer now. I don't think a timer is a good idea to use in an event program, because the timer is only active when the program is active. The timer can only execute when the program executes. So if you have a timer in your event program, think very careful how you want it to function, because your timer will stop halfway through the count, and your program is not going to do the task as what you'd expect it to do. Okay, so be very careful about timers. There might be a couple of other things as well that you have to be aware of that is going to be of importance to note when you write your program. So think carefully about the logic that you're going to use. So anything that you write in the program will not execute until your trigger bit switched on. Okay, remember that. So when we create or add another program now in my event, what will happen now is the question. So let's say another function block diagram, and let's say my event name 1 will be my profile. Now I'm just going to demonstrate this for some of the guys that don't understand what this is all about, and I'll just call that program PU1. Okay, create this program, and it didn't give me a message box about some event. Now that's strange, because it is still in the same program block. Okay, so all of that is now created under my event 1. So all of this depends on X0. So all programs that I'm writing here is going to depend on X0. So when oops, 1 second. Yes, 1 second. There we go. So when you want to create another event program, be careful how you're going to do that. I'm going to delete this program that I just created now. Delete data, and that program is gone. So when you add a program, give it the same name as your program name that you specify on top here. Again, function block diagram for me. And now I will get the message again about specify a device that you would like the program to run on. Okay. So this program will now run on maybe a different event. So if I go to my settings now again, my program settings, detail settings, edit that, and change my parameter to X1. Okay, so in there you can see The first program will run off x0 and the second program will run off x1. In this case, you can use any binary to trigger the program. You can have internal bits inside your program to execute different tasks. Okay, always remember to apply. I didn't show you. Always remember to apply. If you don't apply, it will ignore your parameters that you've set when you convert your program, when you rebuild your program. JXWorks will notify you anyways if you would like to do that, so be careful about message boxes. They're there for reasons. Okay, so this program will now run on x1. This will be on x1, and this program will execute when x0 fires. Okay. So what will be the next one that we're going to look at? I'm just going to go through some of the settings that you will find in our configuration here. So I've just shown you how to use a bit to run your event program. So always remember, the event program will execute once that bit is switched on. The bit will not switch off until you switch it off. Okay. Then we have interrupt occurrence, and then we have pass time. Let's have a look at the different configurations on that. So interrupt occurrence. What is interrupt occurrence all about? So again, if we read at the bottom here, it clearly spells out to us what we need to look for. So for interrupt occurrence, we need to set a trigger. So that will be pointers in my PLC. So I can use these pointers to execute this program. I can allocate pointers in one program to trigger other parts in other programs. But what I like about the layout here is my actual event part of my program can go now and reside in the events group, and I can drive my interrupt from my main program. So the way that you used to, and this applies for ladder or function block diagram, doesn't matter, it is exactly the same methods. So when you used to write pointers in your program, then this is maybe a nicer idea to handle or to manage your program a bit better. So you don't have to do a lot of troubleshooting trying to figure out after a long program or long development what is going to trigger what, where and when. So now you're very definitive in exactly what's going to happen when and where, and makes it so much easier to troubleshoot, or if you want to hand over a program to someone else. So the only thing that really needs to happen here is if I want to use a specific interrupt. Okay, be careful about interrupts as well. You need to be familiar with interrupts. The interrupts will be handled, pointers will be handled in a different video altogether. It's a bit more advanced. So just be careful. Certain pointers are allocated already in the PLC for certain tasks. So from 0 to 23, I0 to 23 and I50 to 77 I can use now to execute this program. For instance, if I say I2, so wherever I use interrupt number 2 in my program, this specific program will now execute on interrupt number 2. Okay, so if I look at the next one, which will be pass time. So pass time is literally just dedicated for a certain time period. So let's say if 10 or 100 milliseconds has passed, trigger the program. Or you can change it to seconds. If 1,000 or let's say 1,200 seconds has passed, then trigger the program. again, the bit will be set and not run again. So if you want this program to run every 1200 seconds, just clear the bit and that program will run every single time exactly on 1200 seconds. Okay. Very interesting and handy tools to use. I hope you've learned something from that. So if you've got any questions, let me have a look at this. Give me a second. There we go. Thank you for watching and sharing your time. And we hope you've learned something today. Please like and click on the subscribe button. Also click on the bell icon so that you can receive notifications and not miss out on our live webinars. Thursday's webinar will be about Mitsubishi's basic VFD setup and FR configurator mobile app. That will be live at 11 o'clock on Thursday morning, presented by Steve Brits. If you have any suggestions around the presentations or other presentations topics, please email Samantha b@adroid.co.za. That will be Samantha b@adroid.co.za. We look forward to host you at another of our events, and we thank you again. Be sure to like and subscribe and click on that bell icon. Goodbye and stay safe.